Alrighty, folks, welcome back to the Fish Meat for Dinner YouTube channel. Today we're going to be doing a podcast answering some questions that you guys sent in, as well as kind of explaining some things. So, to start out, we have questions sent in by Chris Racette, aka Buddy's mom. And her question is, what's your favorite lake to fish in summer and winter, and why? So, I'll go first. My favorite lake to fish in the summertime is either the Bay of Green Bay or fishing Sturgeon Bay, just because there's big walleye, there's big smallmouth, and it's just a blast. And I don't know what it is, but I just like big water. I like being out there, and my boat's kind of small, so I just like being out there and showing everybody that, yo, my boat can take a beating, and just kind of going against the odds a little bit and just kind of showing my overall fishability. In wintertime, I kind of like secluded little lakes, like 40-acre lakes out around the Wild Rose area. There's a lot of little lakes around there, and they're all pretty jam-packed full of good bluegills and pike and stuff, so I enjoy doing that, and I like it when I can get out on a lake and I'm the only one out there. So that's mine. What do you got, Chief?
I'd say my favorite summertime lake to fish is probably Lake Poygan. I mean, we fished it so many times. We know all the spots and where to go. There's very few times that we go out there and we don't catch anything. So it's always a good time when you can catch fish and you know where they are. So I'd say that's my favorite summertime lake.
And having the accessibility of having a place right on the lake, it's kind of nice.
You just take off and go. But for wintertime, I don't know. I like fishing a lot of lakes. But like you said, I like small, secluded lakes, where probably not a lot of people know where the fish are. I'd have to say Lake Napawon, which is right around the Wild Rose area, like you said. And we've caught a lot of big crappie out there before. And I remember one time specifically, we went out there and we were fishing with tip-ups and we were jigging, and we caught 2 walleye actually. And there were some old guys who came up to us and they said that they'd been fishing the lake their whole life and they've never caught a walleye out there. So that was kind of cool. But overall, that lake produces really good fish, and I'd say that's probably my favorite.
So we're going to move on to the next question here. We're continuing on with the mom questions here. This one's from my mom. And she says, do you have a favorite species of fish that you like to fish for? So, personally, I started out as a walleye fisherman. Everybody in my family was huge walleye fishermen. And as I progressed through my fishing career, I guess you could call it, I began to kind of develop a love for bass fishing a little bit more than walleye fishing. I always will love walleye fishing because that's what I started out with, and it's a whole different community. But bass fishing is like the next level. You want to be competitive. You want to meet new people. There's just so many different techniques and ways that everybody does something that makes it really cool. Where walleye fishing, you got trolling, you got jigging, and a couple other techniques like casting and stuff. But with bass, you got like top water. These have all these different ways to fish for them, depending on all these different circumstances, like depth, water temperature, like your cloud cover. It's crazy all the different ways that you can get them to bite. It intrigues me. So I'd have to say for the moment in life that I'm in right now, it's probably bass fishing, because it's just so somewhat unpredictable, and there's just so many cool people that I've met over getting introduced into bass fishing. I've learned so much, and I just keep on learning, and it's just, I don't know, I like it because it's just the constant variability in what you can do with it. But you, Chief?
I got a lot of types of different fishing that I like. I mean, I like all fishing, but earlier in my life, I started out doing a lot of pan fishing and northern fishing with my grandparents. But like you said, as life developed on, I'm fairly new into bass fishing. You know, I haven't learned. A lot of what I've learned has come from you or working with H2H fishing this summer, camera crewing for the guys that are professionals almost at it. You know, they've been doing it their whole lives. But I'd say right now, in the point of life I'm in, that bass fishing is one of my favorites. You know, and getting the opportunity to work with some of the best at doing it. You know, you get to see how they do it and the different things that they do. It's a really cool thing that 5 guys can go out there and catch the same amount of fish doing completely different things. I think it's a really cool thing that I was able to learn.
That's like also going off what Reece said. I think it's cool how you, like, being able to have the opportunity that we had to watch these pros kind of go about their way of fishing. We were able to see how they were doing it, but at the same time we were kind of developing our own understanding of how everything worked, and it overall just helped us kind of compile our own fishing style with it. And like, I don't know, it's one of the best experiences I've ever had, because I take from each little pro that I was with little things, and it just makes me a better fisherman. And I can see that my success rate of getting bites and kind of locating the fish has increased tremendously. So, like, if I were to recommend anything, if you're wanting to get more passionate into the sport, just try to be around other fishermen, because everybody has their own little style, and you can learn so much just from, if you go fishing with them one time, you know, you can just learn stuff, and it'll just help you become a better angler, as well as kind of rubbing off your experience on the other person as well. So.
I think tournament fishermen are highly misunderstood. You know, many people are under the impression that they're not going to share any secrets, or they don't like to tell you anything. They like to keep it all to themselves. But yeah. I don't know about you, but from my experience, they were very helpful. You know, they tell you all the things that they knew to try to get you better and teach you new things, which I really appreciated. You know, it taught me a lot. So I can be thankful for that, and I think that they're very misunderstood.
Yeah. And fishing is one of those communities where everybody kind of helps each other out. Everybody wants the passion for the sport to grow, and everybody wants to see the newer generations come in, set down the video game machines, and kind of build their own passion for not only the sport, but nature and the environment. Because with everything that's going on with global warming and everything, we need people to be engaged with the environment and see how valuable our resources are. And fishing is just one of those things where you can get the kids in there, they can see how everything kind of works, and build their own understanding of how to deal with the crises at hand, I guess you could say. But you got anything to add, or can we move on?
Yeah, we can move on.
Alright, we're going to move on to the next question. This is from Nolan. He says, what type of lures do you go with depending on the day or the weather? So, I guess from a bass standpoint, weather is a huge thing. Say there's like an overcast or something. Generally, if it's like warm with an overcast, probably want to go with top water. Like I remember I had it in when I was pre-fishing. My good buddy Ricky, we were pre-fishing for a tournament on the Wolf River, and it started just downpouring, and it was still pretty warm out. I mean, this is late fall. It was probably like 50, almost 60 degrees out, and as soon as that rain turned on, bam, top water bite was on. We were throwing frogs, spooks, whopper ploppers, but as soon as that rain stopped, it bam, right back to a jig bite, swim bait, spinner bait. So I think, I don't know if the water has something to do with making like the sound on the water, and you can mimic that with the top water, or what it is. I'm definitely not an expert by any means on that stuff, but that'd be my best guess.
When it's real sunny out, you know, if you're bass fishing, a lot of times if you got heavy weed cover or
like shade,
thick foliage above or that comes almost to the surface of the water, a lot of guys will take tungsten jigs and they'll punch through the mats, because this fish a lot of times will be sitting right under those mats, those thick mats, to get out of the sun, get some cooler water. You just take a thick, heavy tungsten jig and you just punch right through those. And I've seen a lot of guys get bites off that. So, when the sun's up high, coming straight down, and it's warming that water up, a lot of times they're up under those.
We're gonna go quick off of our live chat here. Thank you guys for adding in some stuff. We're gonna read our buddy John Kiffel's question here, and he says, "What inspires you to follow your dreams?" So, from a fishing standpoint, I'm inspired big time by my grandfather. He passed away a few years ago. He fell out of a deer stand and became paralyzed, and that eventually took him. But he always pushed me to just be better. He always would call me up on the phone after spelling bees to see how I did, and after soccer games and stuff. And he's the one who really got me into fishing. We'd go out to our cabin on Lake Poygan, and we would wheel him out onto this pontoon boat that we made handicap accessible, and we go out trolling for walleyes, and he'd teach me all the ins and outs of how to get walleyes to bite when it's really bad fishing, and I don't know, he just really kind of built my passion for the sport. And then with that inspiration, I've just been able to constantly build upon that. So I'd say he's my main inspiration. Then all my supporters that I've had really inspired me to just keep going and work through the hard times. So I really appreciate everybody that supports us. I got a lot of good friends like my buddy Reece here, and John and Bo, and a lot of other people that I could name that constantly give me support and just turbocharges my will to go out and fish. So
there's a lot of things that factor into that, I just love fishing. That's part of it, I wouldn't say my dreams revolve around fishing, but I have many aspirations in life. But it's definitely a good way to take the stress off and have a good time with your friends, and that's something I can really appreciate, is when you get a group of friends that can come together and enjoy the same thing. You can learn to really appreciate that.
I also like how when you're fishing, most of the time you just have complete silence. And you don't get many times where you're able to just one-on-one have a talk with someone and about like non-stressful topics. Like you can just shoot the shit and just have a wonderful time. You don't have to be stressed out or nothing. It's just a great way for people to come together. Just like how people say sturgeon spearing is awesome, because you have a whole day of complete silence unless you got radio going, and you got nothing to do besides shoot the shit and learn cool things about the other person that you're with. So, I mean, me and Reece are been friends for a lot of years now. We still learn stuff about each other every day. So when we're out fishing and whatnot, so.
Yeah, it's a different atmosphere when you're out fishing, There's no stress, nothing to worry about. It kind of...
You have the same common goal.
Yeah, it's an avenue for you to just let things go and, relax.
And we learn things through each other's experiences as well, I mainly handle getting us to the spots and kind of a little bit of the brains of the operations, and somehow Buddy here outfishes me no matter what. So you learn stuff every day. That's the awesome thing about the sport. So we're gonna move on here. We're gonna move on to my dad here. He asks, if you could have any boat, would it be a walleye boat or a bass boat?
It's an easy question.
It's a lot of the bass boats nowadays are pretty much almost walleye boats. Walleye boats are nice because you get the security and the safety of being in a deep boat, as well as being able to trek big water. But if you get in some of the bass boats, obviously they're going to be pretty expensive. But some of the bass boats, just naming off like the Bass Cat Jaguar, that's a big boat. That's a 21-footer. It's built for big water. It's basically like a walleye boat, the deepness of it. But you can put a 450 on there and go 90 miles per hour still. So there's definitely fishability in both. I'm pretty sure if I really tried hard, I could troll out of a bass boat. But I don't know. I don't know if it's because I'm young or what, but I like going fast. And bass boat's the way to go with that. So
I agree with you there. I mean, amount of the fishing I do, I don't really fish a lot of big waters, so the convenience of having a bass boat is a little bit lighter. They're both. I mean, if you're talking about a fiberglass walleye boat and a fiberglass bass boat, a bass boat it's a little, especially if you're a newer boat driver, you know, it's a little more forgiving. You're not sitting as deep in the water, so if you do run over a pile of rocks or run across a pile of rocks, or even a sandbar, you know, you're not going to dig in as much. You know, it's a little flatter, a little shallower in the water. So in that aspect, I'd definitely pick a bass boat.
So moving on, we're gonna go to Clay Buster Productions. Question here is about smallmouth. So, I only have about 2 years of experience with smallmouth, like serious experience, and probably the biggest thing for me, like I love catching smallmouth off of bridges. Like if you could find a bridge that kind of drops off in about at least 6 feet of water, and you got some rock right there.
Concrete
My favorite.
pilings or
My favorite.
any kind of structure, you know, sticking out of the water.
You could pitch a football jig in there, a tube, and you can just swat on them, man. Like this, I don't know if you guys seen my one video with Eli. What I was doing is I'd come in underneath to the side of the bridge. So here's the bridge. I'd come to the side, and I'd put my spot lock on. And then I'd sit there, and I'd just pitch the inside rock piles and drag my jig back, barely bouncing it so I could feel it drag up over those rocks. And usually when it comes up over the rock, the fish picks it up right off the rock. Bam, instant. Like sometimes you don't even have to set the hook. And smallmouth are by far like the hardest fighting fish for the size comparison. Those suckers do not give up. You're trying to weigh them, unless you have one of those clip-on weigh things, you're crap out of luck, man. Because them suckers do not give up. I don't know how many times I've had one of those smallmouth, and I'm trying to weigh it, and it just goes nuts, and it flies around the boat. It's like
they don't give up.
I feel bad because it's like I don't want to damage the fish, but the thing's going psycho, you know.
That's one reason I like bass fishing. They're one of the hardest fighting fish, no matter how big they are. I mean, people will argue, obviously, northern and musky, they're a lot bigger fish, and they're going to fight harder, but bass, you know, for their size, it's really fun. They give you a good rod bend, give you a fight.
That, and I'd say for smallmouth fishing, probably 60% of the time I use a spinning reel over a bait caster, just because I don't know if it's the fishability. Sometimes I like, with the spinning reel, I can put, say, a tube on there, and say it's underneath like something, like that goes up underneath rocks or something. I like fishing rocks for smallmouth, but sometimes I fish these rivers that just have like logs and sand bottom and stuff, or gravel bottom, and what I'll have to do most of the time is skip. So with the spinning reel, obviously you could do it with a bait caster, but obviously, like, I like to run a tube a lot, so I'll take the tube and I can really good pitch it underneath there, or I could use like a heavy weighted down wacky rig Senko. They'll bite that too, and I can just real elegantly skip it underneath there, and that seems to be like the ticket for me. So
yeah, if we're talking about baits, I mean, if you do find rock, that's a very big part of it. I mean, if you find some rock, I've seen a lot of people have success on Ned rigs, you know, with a mushroom jig. You just drag it slowly across the bottom, and just like you would a tube, and you get a lot of them on that too.
Alright, we can go to the next question here. So Daniel Kistel says, tiny lakes for ice fishing is my new thing. I also agree. It's good
fun
stuff.
when you're the only one out there.
We got Musky Slayer. He says, what is your favorite cold water bass bait? Man,
Cold water.
I do not really target bass too much in the ice season, but I'd probably have to say like a forage minnow or something, or a rattling buckshot spoon. But most of the time, I'll be ice fishing with little tungsten teardrop golden jigs, and I'll have either a spike or a waxworm on there, and I don't know, they seem to love that. So
I've caught a lot of bass through the ice on tip-ups, actually, just on shiner minnows, you know?
yeah.
If you find a spot that you know there's a lot of bass in, they'll definitely find out a shiner.
That, as well as even like they got those tip downs. You put like a rosy red or something on there, but instead of using a treble hook, you can use one of those teardrop jigs. And I don't know if it's the extra little flash or what it is. That's what works on Apollon most of the time. But
the jackhammers or whatever they're called, the tip down or we caught a couple on jackhammers too, or whatever they're called. Jawjackers, that's what it is.
Yeah.
A lot of smallies, small ones, but.
So Clay Buster says, can you just talk about what you do the moment you hit the water when going bass fishing? So I guess right away, obviously I go on my locator, I look around, and I really look for high percentage spots. Because with my boat, I don't have the ability to zoom across the lake and like doing 70 miles per hour, you know? My boat does about 35, so I gotta be selective on the spots that I pick based on how big of a waterway I'm fishing. So I look for really high percentage spots. I look for little creeks. I look for little inlets, maybe places where there's big bridges or big structure mounds, as well as big long strips of lily pad, or say like cane. And what I just begin with is I start with the basics. I'll start with a tube, maybe like a frog, jig, just your fundamental baits. And then based on the feedback that I'm getting from the fish that I'm getting reactions from, I can kind of tune it in. So I can tune in like, oh, instead of a football jig, they might want a swim jig. Or based on the structure I'm fishing, maybe I'm fishing a jig and there's a bunch of entangled wood down there. Instead of fishing the jig and getting it caught on stuff, maybe I'll try a rattle trap with one of the hooks off of there so that I can bounce it off the wood and get that rattle reaction from the fish once it hits the wood. Really, the main factor is just being good with your electronics, because electronics nowadays, that's your eyes under the water, you know? That's how you're going to find probably 50% of your fish, because otherwise you're blind. All you have is your topographic maps and whatnot. Side imaging, amazing technology. You find structure, 9 times out of 10 probably there's going to be at least one fish on there. So I'd say just sticking to your electronics, sticking with what you think works. If what you think is not working, a big thing is just putting in the time to switch your baits. Because, like, eventually you're going to find something that works. You just got to have the effort to want to keep trying different things. Because you could just sit there all day and just be bored and toss the same thing. Or you could switch it up and you could be like, holy crap, I tied on a hair jig. I would have never thought I would have bit that. And you learn something new, you know?
That's one thing I noticed when we were fishing with the pros. If they weren't getting a bite, they never stayed with the same bait.
Yeah.
Never. You find what works, and if you go through everything that you got and you find nothing that works in that spot, obviously it's time to move, you know? So
that's why they got 10 rods on their deck. It's for a reason.
Each side.
It's for a reason.
May look like a mess, but they use them all, that's for sure.
Yep. And then, I don't know. That pretty much sums that up, I think. Musky, yeah, I can't help you out on musky. I'm not a musky fisherman.
I've never fished for musky before, so.
I just catch them on accident when I'm trolling for walleye. So, hot and tots work good.
That one might have been a musky. That you think when we caught that, it was either a big northern or a big musky. I don't know, one of the two. But
number 7 flicker shads and hot and tots seem to be the go-to for catching them suckers while you're trolling. So, next up, we're gonna go back to what we had earlier sent in. We also had the secondary question of what Nolan was asking was, what is the funniest or craziest fishing experience this year?
This year? I didn't do much fishing this year, but...
You can go first.
I don't even think about this. I don't know. There's a lot of them.
I'll go. My craziest fishing experience, it was a fishing experience. So, this is when I was pre-fishing for a tournament, and I was with a good buddy that I really didn't fish a whole lot with, and he had never fished on a boat ever, like never. So it was kind of cool. I was able to show him like how the trolling motor works and how to kind of maneuver a boat around to increase your fishability, as well as the electronics. So I was showing him all this stuff, and we happened to get on a really huge school of bowfin, and it was like out of nowhere. It's like you could catch them, bam, 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 bam. And I had this rod that I bought when I went for spring break to put one of my bait casters on. So it was a 2-piece bait casting rod, so that I could take it to Florida and go fishing with it. And the funny story is during the spring break when I was fishing in Florida, I actually got pulled over the side of a pier with my reel and everything on it, and ended up catching it back. So I have this rod that I already lost once, but I got it back. I'm catching these bowfin with it, and I go to a boat flip a bowfin, and it snaps in half. And I'm like, how can it survive all of that but not a bowfin? So that was pretty crazy. And then building upon that, later that day, it started downpouring like I was telling you earlier with the top water. And it was getting really dark, and it got dark quick. So we're on the river, and there's logs and all sorts of stuff. And I'm zooming along, and there's like this little drop-off thing that feeds into the river. If you've ever been on the Mississippi River, they have a lot of these. It's like where the water level goes down a little bit. And when I went down it, I didn't have any problem. But I guess when you go up it, you have less water to work with. So I was going full speed in my boat, and I hit it and basically shredded my prop and my skig. So I had to get a new skid guard put on, and I had to buy a whole new prop. So that was like a $300 learning opportunity there. So that was my craziest experience there. So, you think of anything?
I could tell my funniest story. It definitely wasn't from this year, but it was from that northern. But that's a story from a different time. I don't know if he wants me to say that, but from this year's trout season, me, Max, my brother Nolan, who asked the question, and then my dad were all fishing on an unnamed river, and we did pretty good actually. But I remember we showed up and we were pitching tents, we're camping, and Max shows up and he's got nothing but tennis shoes with him. I'm like, you ain't got no rubber boots with you? Or at least waders? He's like, no. I was like, all right. I mean, we're going to be walking in the river, so you're going to have fun. Not to mention this water, like, it's cold. Like, it's cold water. So I was like, all right.
It's like a polar plunge.
Yeah. It dang near was, right? So we didn't fish that day. Or we did fish that day off the banks. We didn't go in the water at all. But then the next day when we woke up and we went to another spot, and we were fishing all day. And comes towards the end of the day, you start spreading out throughout the day. And all of a sudden, me, my dad, and my brother, we were all fishing in this one hole together because we fished there before, and this was his first time fishing there. And we're on this river. It's a big river, thick. It's in the middle of nowhere in the woods. And we're all fishing the same hole, and Max was behind us. And we were like, well, Max should be coming up on us anytime soon here. We were waiting and waiting and waiting, and no Max. And we were like, well, where the heck did he go? So I'm like, all right, I'll go back and look for him. I walk all the way back, about a half mile down the river. He's not there. I walk back up to my brother and my dad. I'm like, yeah, he's not there. So at this point, we don't know where Max is at, like at all. So it's his first time there, so I'm not like worried because I know he knows his way around everywhere. But long story short here, I probably ran up and down the river about 3/4 of a mile to a mile 2 times looking for this kid. And I was convinced he fell in the river at this point. So I was like, I don't know where the hell he went. But anyways, we walked back all the way up to the truck, which is like a 2-mile walk out of there and through thick stuff. We get to the truck and his stuff is there, but he's not there. So we're like, well, where'd he go? So we're sitting at the truck honking the horn, and the river's like super loud. So it's a fast moving river. You can't hear anything. So we're sitting here honking the horn, and we're waiting and waiting and waiting, and we were convinced he got ate by a bear at this point or fell in a river or something. And I usually don't get worried, but it was to the point where I was like, yeah, I'm getting a little bit worried, He's never been here before. But pretty soon, like 45 minutes later, he comes walking out of the woods, and we found him. But he was like, yeah, I had to walk the river all the way back, and that walk is absolutely terrible. It's awful.
There's like picker bushes and stuff.
Everything. So we usually walk around, but he just walked right along the river, and it's like trees like this. Like, you can't get through it.
You gotta crouch through there. Like, you got trout nets that got like elastic bands on them. You clip your side. Dude, you're unsnagging that sucker like every minute.
Tripping over logs, and you're up to water, like
Yeah.
dang near on your ankles, 2 feet up the bank. But anyways, we get back, and we go down fishing by our camp that lunch, and then me and my brother, we got rubber boots. We decided to walk through the river to get to the other side, and we're walking along the river, and we see this little, it was like an island of some sort. It was just flooded up to it. He just comes like, I don't know, he just walks right through the water. He don't even care. He's got khakis and alpha bounces on, and he's walking up waist deep of water. I'm like, all right, man, whatever you want to do. So he's walking like a half mile down this river in cold water and just alpha bounces and khakis, and I'm like, the next day he's like, yeah, I've had enough of this. So we had to drive to an hour and a half to the Crandon, yeah, to the local
boot store.
Where they didn't have any, he wasn't looking for just like a lifetime pair of boots, but the cheapest pair of boots they had there was like $180 So.
I was like, hey dude, you got any Walmart boots? He's like,
yeah, Walmart brand boots? He's like, no, we don't sell that here, because there's like a sports shop and they don't have anything else in Crandon. So
$180 later and some lacrosse boots, and I didn't have cold feet anymore.
That fixed that situation.
But then I didn't have long enough socks, so I ended up getting boot rash all day. That sucked.
Short socks and rubber boots. It's always a good combination.
Yeah, it's always a journey when we go up there, because we don't know what the hell we're doing half the time.
I know. But we still find fish. We still find fish somehow.
I ran up and down the river 4 times looking for these fellas.
I did the same.
And luckily, I knew that eventually I'd run into the road eventually, but if I had no idea, it probably wouldn't have been a good day.
It's a good thing you can't get really lost on a river, because you just follow the river, but it's not a fun walk.
No.
I wouldn't want to do it, nor would I.
So, next, we're going to go to my good buddy Pat O'Brien's question about reading fishing books and or like map books, and then maintenance of fishing gear. So, reading like map books, I really like map books for in the winter time, because it not only like you can buy like these books, I can't remember what they're called. It's almost like a Lake Master thing, but you can buy these books. It's for different regions of the state, and they'll have all these different lakes listed. They'll tell you how big they are, what the stocking history of if they stock fish in them, like the foliage types that you can have in there. Gives you all the depth ranges, as well as like DNR, like if they zapped the fish and like got population counts. And then they also tell you like a brief summary of the lake. So it'll say like around like the northeast point of the lake in the wintertime, drop a tungsten jig with a waxworm on there and 14 feet of water, and you get good bluegills or something. So they're just really helpful getting to know new lakes and just kind of piquing your interest, I guess, so that you don't just end up going there and be like, okay, this is just a lake with like 4-inch perch in it, it's a waste of my time. So that's what I like about the books. And then maintenance of fishing gear. Reels, you can just get all-purpose oil. I clean them up a little bit every winter time. And then in the when ice fishing starts, I put new line on my reels. I make sure everything's good to go. I'll maybe buy some new jig holders and stuff, as well as try out new gadgets. So
yeah, for ice fishing, for sure. If you got like ice on your reel or anything like that, and you keep your stuff in the garage, make sure you thaw it out. Even your ice shanty,
Yeah.
You gotta make sure you thaw everything out, because otherwise you're gonna end up with one big creased and frozen mess whenever you try to use it again. Yeah. It's not gonna be good. So
also a tip for your flashers, charge it at least one time during the summer, because otherwise your battery's gonna take a junk. I've gone through like 3 batteries now, and it is not fun to rebuy them and mess around with it. So charge your battery once or twice in the summer, and it'll save your battery and give you less issues in the future. So I think that pretty much covers that for the most part. Also, I like for like maintenance, I guess you could call it. I like getting these. I don't know what they are. If they're nylon or whatever, they're kind of like the woven, plasticky like
the nylon
rod sleeves, and then you can also get like little rod cover or reel covers, and I like that for my compartments because my compartments are like super like they're not divided or nothing. They don't have like poles where you can like stick the thing in there, and it'll separate it. They're all just thrown in there, so that really helps with like keeping it so when you pull a rod out, you aren't pulling out 6 other rods with it because it's stuck on there. Saves you a lot of time, a lot of hassle, and a lot of F-bombs. So
you're not bending your eyes either. You know,
yeah,
sometimes when you pull your rod out, you'll
yeah.
catch an island on the edge of the compartment. You'll bend it up, but it
Yep.
keeps all of that.
Yeah, and it keeps your reels from getting all dinged up and gashed up. So, and then New Year's resolutions. My New Year's resolution is just to make more videos because I've been kind of slacking. I make a video and then I kind of sit around not wanting to edit it because it takes me like 2 hours. So that's my thing. And then also just fishing with more people because most of the time I just like being on my own schedule and I don't like being committed. So I usually just end up going by myself. So I'd like to get more people to come along with me and build great experiences with other people. So.
You know, I haven't really thought of one yet, to be honest with you, but I got 5 more hours to think of one, so maybe we'll make a video and I'll post one that I think of. But I got a lot of stuff. Everybody's got a lot of stuff to work on, so.
Yeah, that was Crandon up north. Yeah. See what else we got. Zoom brush hogs, you know, I've never used them. I'm pretty sure those are like creature baits, right?
I think so.
I think it's a creature bait. If it is a creature bait, I don't know. But if it
Look
is
it
a
up
creature bait, sometimes I like creature baits.
Look it up.
Creature baits, like Texas rig, I like doing that. And then also, I like taking creature baits and I like chopping them in half and putting them on a football jig. Because they seem to have a lot more paddle action on them. But we'll look that up for you here quick. But in the meantime, we'll answer Clay's
creature bait.
Yeah, creature bait?
Yep.
Yeah. I tend to shy away a little bit from the creature bait sometimes. But it's also a lot of people I know like to fish them. So, especially for like
very much, but
pitching weeds and stuff. Killer with a heavy tungsten on there. I've seen a lot of guys do that.
You ever use the Yep? Remember when we tried to use the Yup salamanders? You know,
Yeah.
you get those Yup boxes when we first started bass fishing.
Yum.
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 Yup is the drink we got.
Yeah.
Those milk drinks at high school, but Yum, the salamanders. I think we caught like 1 bass in the Sherwood ponds with them, but otherwise,
Yeah.
I don't even know why they sell those anymore.
Who knows? Clay says, do you prefer braid or floral when fishing for bass? So, what I actually like the combination of both. So, like with spinning rods, I like to do probably like 10, 12 pound braid to a fluorocarbon leader. That's probably like this long. And with my tubes and whatnot, sometimes you can get away with braid straight doing a, what's it called? Wacky Rig Senko. Because with braid, you can feel a lot better. Like with the, when I run it with my tubes, I can feel every little rock. If you run all fluorocarbon, it gets dinged up a lot. And it's kind of a waste of money, in my opinion. Braid, the only thing that sucks about braid to fluorocarbon is if, like I use the Alberto knot, and they're kind of a pain in the butt to tie sometimes, especially if you're in a rush in a tournament. So I definitely tie a couple of them on different rods so that way I don't have to deal with it when it breaks. But I like the combination of both. And then with, I only really use like braid, like 60-pound braid when I'm frog fishing. Otherwise, I like to use 12-pound monofilament, smoke green, Suffolks,
I like that too.
for my jigging, with football jigs and stuff. And top water, you can use either fluorocarbon or braid, but I don't use a whole lot of fluorocarbon just because it's expensive, and sometimes, like most of the lakes I fish, they're kind of stained water, so it's not really necessary. So I hope that answers your question there. Next up, we got Larry Eaton, a good buddy we filmed with for H2H fishing. He wants us to talk about fishing with artificial baits or like plastics for bass and walleye. So with walleye, artificial baits was mandatory in the H2H rules, and it actually proved to be pretty good. Obviously, it's not going to be up there with live bait because live bait's live bait, you know? But the nice thing about artificial bait is that, say you get a fish that just clobbers it, but you're not able to set the hook, instead of having like a night crawler or something on there, that night crawler is probably gone, you know? You're going to have to check to see if your bait's on there and waste all that time putting a whole new bait on there. Where with plastics, probably 9 times out of 10, that bait's still going to be on there, and you're still going to have all that time to be in the water fishing. You don't have to worry, oh yeah, I better pull it up and check it. Obviously, sometimes you might want to check it just to make sure it's secured on there the right way. But you're going to get that extra sense of like safety that, yeah, I may miss the fish, but maybe I'll get him when he turns around and wants a second bite at it. So that's the nice thing about plastics, as well as there's like a huge range of plastics that you can purchase. And people are coming out with new things every day. It's kind of cool to see some of the shapes. You're like, what the hell is that? Like, it looks like a turd, you know? So.
Yeah. I mean, you covered it pretty well, but there's definitely a large market for plastics, and there's a lot of people that enjoy using them, you know? And they've proved to be very effective, so.
Yeah. With bass, plastics probably take.
That's the only way to go.
Yeah, it takes up probably 80% besides hard baits and other stuff.
Right.
So bass, it's huge. Walleye, obviously everybody's gonna stick with live bait if they can use it because it's just that good.
And the variety of plastics, especially when you're talking about bass fishing, the variety of plastics there is ridiculous. You know, I mean, some of the things you look at, it doesn't even look like a fish would want to bite it because some of the crazy stuff that they make. But you know, there's so much of it, and a lot of it's real good. It doesn't matter the brand, it doesn't matter the shape. A lot of it's really effective depending on where you are or what you're fishing. So it's very valuable.
And with the artificial baits, they got a lot of those scents built into them, and it helps the fish kind of stay on there longer because it mimics the live bait.
Right.
And most of the time they'll last longer. You don't have to worry about worms dying and stuff. You could just pull out a package, put it on there, you're good to go.
It'll last for like as many bites as you can keep them on there for, but a lot of times it's 5-6 bites, you know, before they're real torn up.
Plus
they got a new one on.
Plus they got all the different colors. So like I know like when we go down to Deer Pier Dam, if the water's super stained, we'll use a bright colored plastic and they're able to find it then. So that's one of the pluses to it as well. So I think that covers the question pretty well. Next up is from our good buddy Marcus Schultz that I just shot a video with, which will be coming out soon, on using the Garmin Panoptics through the ice. So his question is, what have you seen from fishing if you think like when I go out, if weather, air pressure, or moon phases affect fishing? I'm not a huge believer in the moon phases thing. I've heard sometimes with the full moon or whatever, and I think it's like June or July, maybe August or whatever it is, you have the best chance of catching your PB largemouth or something. I don't really know if there's any truth to that. I couldn't tell you. But like wind and air pressure do have a big thing, because like the air pressure affects the fish's mood, obviously, on if they're hungry or not, where they want to be moving, as well as the wind. The wind Obviously, if you got wind blowing up against a huge shoreline, that wind and all the waves are going to push all the bait up into there, and that's where the fish are going to be feeding. So I do think that wind and air pressure have a huge thing to do with where the fish are going to be located and the type of bite you're going to experience. But I couldn't tell you about the moon phases. I just don't have enough knowledge about that or experience to kind of determine that.
I don't know. I just go out and fish, to be honest with you. And this guy's kind of the brains of the operation. He'll put us where we need to be most of the time. But I go out and fish regardless. Wind, rain, snow, don't matter. You know, I'm going to go out there and see what I can get. See if I can prove people wrong, you know. I'm a firm believer in you always have to try. No matter what the elements are, you might learn something new. You might learn that they like to bite in this or that, you know.
Yep. That's one thing about fishing. You always take away something.
It's a good way to learn, you know. Say it is a full moon and you do catch a PB. You might prove it to be true, or you might learn something that you didn't know before. You got to try every condition and see what works best for where you're fishing and what you're fishing.
Yep. I love fishing in the rain, by the way.
It's fished in the rain a lot
fun.
before.
It's fun.
You might get a little bit wet, but you know, it might be worth it. You never know.
Sometimes the fish are turned on. That and fishing before a storm. Usually after a storm isn't that great because the water gets all mixed up and the fish are probably... The fish most of the time kind of feed before a storm so that they don't have to worry about all the dirty water and everything. So before a storm is pretty good fishing from my experience. And then he also says when you're trolling or just fishing in general, like why do you use a certain color opposed to using a different color? So it's all, for me, I made, like when I'm trolling and stuff or say I'm casting, I mainly just look at the water clarity. So obviously, if you're fishing on like the chain of lakes or like Sturgeon Bay where you have super clear water and the visibility is really good, you're going to want to match the hatch. So you're going to want to find out kind of what they're eating. I mean, once you catch the first fish, they might choke up like a minnow or a crayfish or something. Then you're able to kind of see, okay, it's this big and it's silverish gray. So I got to change the battery quick. Battery's taking a jump. I've been talking too long.
I guess so. How long we got before it dies?
Yes, it did die.
Been on here for like 47 minutes. Somebody said that's what direct powering is for. Oh, look at that nice close face. That nice close face shot right there. It's beautiful.
All right.
We're back up. I guess Buddy's got to switch to direct powering, huh?
Yeah.
That's what Clay says.
We're not that experienced yet, but where'd I put my phone? Okay.
Right there.
So where were we? Obviously you're going to match the hatch. So you got something that big, it's like silver gray. You might want to use like a rig or something, and if it's clear, I don't know. They'll probably just want something natural. Is what I'm trying to say. But with stained water, you're just basically, like if it's really stained water, you just want to try to get a reaction bite because the fish are gonna have a hard time finding it. So you're going to use something with like a rattle or like a big blade on it. And you want to just make as much noise as you can and try to get a lot of flash so that they can locate the bait. And I don't know, you just want them to be able to find it. You don't really need like the most realistic looking thing, as long as it generates sound and they're able to locate it and clobber it. So I use bright, loud baits in stain water, and then I try to get as close to natural color when it's clear. That's what I'm trying to say.
Something like that, right?
Yeah. So, next up, we're going to answer Trent Junyon's question. He's a good buddy of mine that I went to Lake Erie with. And his question is, what was your favorite fishing trip?
Already answered that.
No. We did our favorite.
Our favorite fishing memory? Is that what it was? Okay.
So my favorite fishing trip was this year Lake Erie with Trent Junyon and his dad Doug Junyon, as well as some of their other buddies. We went to Lake Erie, and we went there for, I believe, 5 or 6 days, and it was really cool. You take a ferry to an island called Put-in Bay with your truck and your boat on it, and you live on the island, and then you just launch your boat every day and go out and catch monster walleyes, and you're right by the Canadian border. It's super cool and an awesome experience. I challenge anybody to go and try that out. It's not super expensive either, so it's definitely an eye-opening experience. You mostly run crawler harnesses out there, which is also a very cool way to catch them, and it's just a great time to see the amazing fisheries that are available in the U.S., and it's not that far away. So that was my favorite fishing trip.
I don't know if I have a specific one, but in general, trout fishing every year, to me, that's the most fun time of the year. You know, last couple of years we've went with Max, but otherwise my family, we go camping, and we camp right on the river. You know, we cook stuff over the fire. We live off the land as much as we can, and you go trout fishing every day. And I think trout fishing is one of the most rewarding sports, because a lot of times it's hard to catch trout. You know, they can be hard to find, or you got to walk up and down a river. It's quite a bit of work. So I think trout fishing in general, or that trip that we go on every year, is the most fun that I have out of the year as far as fishing. It's a real good time.
Yeah, just the camaraderie and the challenge. I mean, you're in some thick stuff, man. You work for those fish.
Heck yeah,
like
man.
you was saying earlier, you're crouching through, getting stuck on stuff, and trying to cast. I mean, you're trying to cast, and it's like me trying to cast right now. I got this in my way. I got trees and stuff, and you only got a little river to really get up into.
Most of the times, you got a window about this big to cast through.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think I like fishing with a challenge. I mean, anybody can go out to the Sherwood Ponds, or anybody can go out to some fishery or wherever they know there's fish, and they can sit on a boat, throw a line in the water, and do it effortlessly. But I kind of like working for my fish, and I like a challenge.
That, and you become with nature. It's all you hear is the rushing of the river. You see seldom other people around there. It's just like you're in your own little space, and you're able to just block everything out, have a good time with buddies, camp out, tell stories, and it's just a great way to build memories with some awesome people.
For sure.
I'm really grateful that they let me come along with them, because it's definitely an awesome time. And I've got to become so much closer with him and his family. So it's definitely one of the highlights of my year as well.
It's a fun time.
Next up, unless you guys got any more questions on the live feed, this one will be the last one. So this one's from my good buddy from Canada, and his name's Martin. His question is, how do you go about doing overnight trips in the bush? So this is kind of leading up to what's going to be coming in the future. So
future video.
So
videos.
I was lucky enough to be gifted some money from my grandparents for Christmas, and with that money I made an investment. What I decided to invest in was a 3-person hot tent with a stove, as well as some other gear and Reece has invested in some gear as well. And with this investment, we are going to show our experience as well as I kind of live through a bunch of adventures that we're going to go on. So our first adventure is going to be coming up very soon. We're still waiting on Amazon to get our stuff, but it should be within the next 2 weeks that we're going to be coming out with this stuff. Should be really exciting. We're going to head up to the Nicollet National Forest here in Wisconsin, which is about a 2-hour drive north from where we live, and we are going to backpack into 3 lakes that we think should have some pretty good fishing on it, as well as we won't have anybody else there. We'll have it all to ourselves. It's basically uncharted, so
should be able to do some small game hunting too.
Yeah, small game hunting as well.
Do some fire cookouts and cook some stuff over the fire, whatever we can find or whatever we can get.
It's not gonna be like bushcraft because I'm not gonna be sleeping under a pine tree, but it's
I'll
gonna
take
be
a hot tent over a pine tree.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that much.
It'll be pretty cool, and maybe somehow we'll be able to do a live stream or something with you guys out there.
If we get service.
If we get service or something. But we're definitely going to be doing videos. We're going to do ice fishing out there. We're going to be doing cookouts, hunting. Maybe build like the shelter. Yeah. All sorts of cool stuff. So with that investment, I figure it's not only a learning opportunity for me and my friends, but it's also a way to just kind of up the level, kind of inspire you guys to go out and do cool stuff as well, because that's my main thing with making this YouTube channel is I want to inspire you guys to go out on adventures, as well as just kind of become one with the outdoors and find your passion, because that's the main thing. You got to give more than you take. So
that's important.
I think that pretty much does it. We're going to pretty much sum it up here. We do have one more thing, actually. I put this off as well. It was also part of Daniel's question about ice fishing. I'm going to show you guys my ice fishing setup. So, first off, I am partnered somewhat with Humminbird. They gave me a pretty nice deal on their products. By the way, go to JohnsonOutdoors.com. They'll hook you up with everything with Minn Kota and Humminbird electronics and trolling motors. They have awesome people there. Bill Carlson is the person who I go through, and awesome people. They always support me, and I support them. So, right now I'm fishing with the Helix 5 ice setup. I did just order a Helix 7 ice setup, the G3N series that you can run 360 imaging on in your boat on the summer, and it's all season, so you can put it in here or on your boat. However, that's on a back order thanks to COVID. So in the meantime, I have this. This is an awesome unit. I like it. It has your regular flasher. It has GPS in there. I put a Lake Master chip in there, and with that Lake Master chip, I am able to see all my depths and everything if it's a mapped out lake. Also, what else? Oh, it has live history, so it'll like show like the way you've been jigging, your pattern, and then say another fish comes up, it'll show it come up and hit it, which is very awesome as well, just to get another perspective. So that does it for that. The batteries last pretty long, and it's simple to charge. You just plug it into the wall. You don't have to put like alligator clips and all this other stuff on there. And the case is super convenient. Instead of having like a huge zipper that you have to mess around with and get all iced up, you just flip this down, and these zippers just go straight down. Bam. Easy peasy. So, my other ice fishing electronics is Vexilar Fish Scout 500, I believe it's called. It's a underwater camera. This thing's pretty useful. Essentially, it's similar to the Aqua Views. It's got like a screen, and I actually put a GoPro looking at this so you guys can see what I'm looking at as well in some of my videos. That just allows you to see the structure underneath the water. You can use this in the summertime too. Say you got like logs or something down there and you want to get a better look and see if there's bait fish or even just like the layout of the structure. These are super helpful for that. And it allows you just a cool perspective of what's going on. Next up, I have my pan fishing setup. So this is a custom rod I have. It's super duper light. As you can see, it can bend all the way around. And then I have a Black Betty, what is it, 6061 free fall. It's all metal, which I like because then I don't have to worry about it breaking. And the ice comes off of it pretty easy. And to me, it's just sturdy. So I think I run 4-pound test on this. And I run right now I got a little hair tungsten jig on there. So that's what I like to run for panfish. Next up, we got walleye set up. I have the Clam Gravity Elite reel on here. It's got the free fall trigger on there. And then I have a, what is it? The Inferno by the Tuned Up Custom Rod Company. It's pretty stiff. It's got some backbone, but it also has the tip that's pretty sensitive so you can see the walleyes hit it. And then right now I think I have, what is this on here? I have a VMC Flash Champ on there. But I like to run like rattling buck spoons and Swedish pimples on there, and jigging wraps as well. Hyperglides, never had luck with them, so I don't recommend buying them. But yeah, that's what I like to run for walleye. And then, sure. These are the little containers I keep my stuff in. They're by Lake Co. Or Laco, however you call it. But it's nice because they got all these little individual like poppable compartments, and then it also has this deck that goes up, and then you're able to set stuff in the bottom. So I like them. They're pretty durable too. And then this one has it too, and this one I got it set up for all my little plastics, and you can just open it and get little plastics out of there. And then I got some bigger spoons and Rapala slab wrap in there. And then I got this little container for my my tungsten jigs and stuff. And this is nice because this is super sturdy. So, and then I got a bunch on this side as well. And then I got a Jiffy Ice Scoop filter thingy my bobber. I don't know what you call this. It's called a chipper dipper on here, but this is nice metal, doesn't bend a whole lot, and it also has like a chipper on the bottom in case you really want to get rid of some fine stuff, and has a measuring thing on there. I don't like the plastic ones because they tend to like bend and break, so I get the heavy duty one. Next up, I got a rod. This is kind of my goofy rod because this reel is actually from this is a summer reel that I put on here. I don't know what pound test this is. I think it's like 6 or something. And this is my rod that has all my like sponsors on it. So I'm sponsored by Placino. That's what this rod is. They're a good Amazon company. This is a pretty nice rod actually. It's sensitive, but it has backbone to it. And then I have M Go-To. They're the guys who sent me those baits and the net and stuff. So this is like whenever I go out and I want to prove that I can catch stuff on their products, I use this. So this is that's what I use that for. So next up, I got this rod. This is an inline rod. So you put the line and it goes through this, and then you have a little tickler thing on the tip of there. If you can see it. So this is for like super finicky bluegills and whatnot, and you just get really good feel because you're feeling it through the whole rod, you know. So it's just a different layout and it just allows me to be more versatile. So this is my guest rod. So if I bring someone along, say someone new to fishing or like my cousin or something, and I don't want to worry about them like gunking it all up. This is super simple spinning reel on a pretty cheap rod that's got backbone but also sensitivity. I got rigged up for walleye right now with I think it's called like a K-wrap or something like that. But yeah, this is my rod for like guests, so it's pretty neat. I think that's it, right?
Yep.
Oh, and then show them that thing, the palm rod.
Palm rod's up there.
Right there.
Oh, I got you.
Then I got this thing. I got this thing for Christmas. I'm gonna do a video on this, but it's called a palm rod. So you hold it in your palm like this, and then you jig it, and you can put one of those like little spring feeler things on the end, and like if you can see here, the reel is like right here, and then this is the drag. So you just jig like this, and then say you get a fish. Here. You just reel it, and it's not working too good right now. It's all messed up, but it's kind of neat. So, fix it up. And then I got like pliers and stuff, and I house it all in this case. I house it all in this case right here. It was just by Flambeau. It's pretty deep. And I can put like probably like 6 rods in there, and I have all my tackle and stuff in here too. So that seems to be working for me. It's sturdy. None of my rods have broken in there or gotten like wet or anything. So it's also got like the Rust-Oleum like guard thing in there, so it dries it out on its own. Yeah. So. That's what I use. I think that's pretty much it for the most part.
Questions?
Oh, and then I always bring a spud, and I always bring ice picks. I got the ice picks in there. Safety first, people. You gotta be careful.
Give you those bottom questions. What do we want to know more about regarding fish species?
Okay, so we got our last question here. So this is our final question, and we're shutting her down. So the question is, what fish is on your bucket list? So like what species? My bucket list fish, it's not freshwater, because I've caught a lot of freshwater fish. I want to catch a Goliath grouper. That would be crazy. Like 500-pound Goliath grouper.
Get in the water with them? There's a lot of guys that get in the water with them. You know?
I might have to, just for the hell of it. But I want to be like, I want my bicep veins popping out, just getting pulled over the side of the boat by them things, man.
I've seen bodybuilders get tugged over the side of the boat by those things, so.
They're no joke. Either that or like a huge shark would be cool.
Yeah. If I'm talking freshwater here, we'll switch it up a little bit. I've never caught a muskie before. I've never caught a muskie. I think it'd be really cool to catch like a really big muskie. I know a couple people that have caught muskies, but they weren't like monsters. I think it'd be cool to, pull a dinosaur out of the water. Just a huge muskie. So that would be on my bucket list.
Freshwater for me is it's probably spotted bass or a peacock bass. Peacock bass
in Florida, that'd be pretty cool.
But
or in the Amazon.
Yeah.
If you want to go up there.
Amazon get eaten by giant mosquitoes or something.
Something like that.
Thank you guys for watching. I think that's it. Clay says he can set you up with a muskie, so.
All right, Clay. I'm holding you to that, all right?
We might have to get that set up here.
I'll be waiting for it.
But thank you guys for tuning in. We really enjoyed being able to collaborate with you all and kind of shed some light on any questions you might have, or just to learn a little bit about us and have us learn a little bit about what you guys are interested in. So we also gave you guys an idea of what to look forward to coming up. Obviously, we're going to be doing a lot of ice fishing. I might do some other videos that might be in-depth on tackle usage or just how to do certain things. as well as our little adventures that we're going to be putting on. So there's a lot to come in the future. Make sure to stick around for that. Thank you for your constant support, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.
Go catch 'em.